Chapter 11. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Name, Beedrill, Attribute, Bug, Level, LV15, Quality, S+. Gender, Male, Status, Angry, Features, Sniper, Carrying Items, None, Inherited Moves, None, Basic Skills, Double Needle, Random Attack, Angry, Taught Skills, Bug Bite, Clearing Fog, Drilling, Shooting Down, Tailwind, Hell Stab, Skill Secrets, None. Oh my god! It's a super high-quality Pokémon. It has learned a lot of skills. After Zhang Rui saw all the data of Beedrill through the data eye, he exclaimed, but soon, his face turned into an excited look. Very good, such a high-quality Pokémon is delivered to my door, don't miss it. Baby Dragon, use Sparks on Beedrill. Baby Dragon used the fire attack again on the Beedrill in front of him, and small flames attacked the Beedrill, but this Beedrill was obviously more flexible than those Beedrills. It swayed its body left and right and easily dodged Baby Dragon's fire attack. After the flames disappeared, it raised its sharp double needles and flew towards Baby Dragon quickly. Baby Dragon, when the Beedrill approaches you, use the headbutt. Hearing Zhang Rui's order, Baby Dragon stared at the Beedrill in front of him, watching his every move. Just as it was about to pierce the body with its sharp double needles, Baby Dragon's body suddenly leaned back, and quickly bounced back, hitting the Beedrill's body directly, smashing it heavily to the ground. Boom boom. For a while, the ground was hit by such a powerful attack and a small pit was also smashed, and the Beedrill had lost its ability to fight, collapsed in the small pit, and twitched all over. Originally, Baby Dragon wanted to attack again, but was immediately stopped by Zhang Rui, and then stopped using the headbutt. Zhang Rui hurried over, carefully helped Beedrill up, fed him some blue oranges that could heal his injuries, and put him into the small world. Afterwards, Zhang Rui looked at the pit in front of him that was bigger than his head, and thought to himself, if Baby Dragon doesn't take physical attack blocks every day, it probably won't be able to deal such amazing damage. It's already so powerful at level 20. When it evolves, its power can be imagined. It should be easier to capture the legendary beast in the future. After the matter was over, Zhang Rui got up to challenge the warrior boy, but when he returned to the original place, it was already empty. It's probably because the battle just lasted too long. Xiaoji and the warrior boy had already finished fighting. I thought the two would continue to become hard, but fortunately, Zhang Rui knew where the warrior boy's home was, so he could just go find him directly. Following the route in the anime, Zhang Rui walked for a while and saw a small house made of wood in the distance. The warrior boy had taken off his warrior hat and was sitting on the wooden table eating dinner. Zhang Rui only noticed at this time that it was already evening. At this moment, he suddenly thought that the time in the copy and the time outside were mutual. It was already evening, which meant that it was probably evening outside. It was all his fault that he was too playful and wasted his time. At this moment, the warrior boy noticed the direction of Zhang Rui, put the food in his hand back on the table, and walked towards Zhang Rui. Brother, are you lost? Faced with the warrior boy's question, Zhang Rui shook his head and said to him, no, I'm here to challenge you. Are you from Pallet Town too? Faced with the warrior boy's question, Zhang Rui was stunned for a moment, then nodded and replied, yes. There are quite a few trainers in your Pallet Town this trip. You are the fifth one I have met today, so stop talking nonsense and fight. When the warrior boy heard that he was from Pallet Town, he immediately became excited and started fighting without even preparing to eat, took out the Pokeball from his body and threw it out. A brown Pokemon appeared in front of Zhang Rui, with two large and aggressive sharp horns on its head, and teeth like toothbrushes, probably finding it difficult to eat. Name, Kairos, Attribute, Bug, Level, LV10, Quality, C+. Gender, Male, Status, Healthy, Features, Super Power Claws, Carried Items, None, Inherited Moves, Bug Bite, Basic Skills, Clamp, Gather, Bind, Throw on Earth, Teaching Skills, None, Skill Secrets, None. The quality of this Kairos is okay, but it is so rare. Pokemon, where did he capture it from? Zhang Rui used the data eye to see Kairos's physical data and thought to himself, Kairos is a rare existence in the outside world. On the one hand, its racial value is as high as 500, which is already very high for a bug-type Pokémon. On the other hand, it has a super evolution type, and its physical output is also very impressive, but Zhang Rui is not very optimistic about the qualifications of Kairos in front of him. It is still too low. Then, Zhang Rui took out the Pokeball and threw it out. My Pokémon is this, go. Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon, who had just returned to the Pokeball not long ago, appeared again, opened his mouth full of fangs and roared. Roar. What kind of Pokémon is this? It doesn't belong to the ranks of the 3 starter Pokémons at all. Are you really a newcomer from Pallet Town? Hearing the doubts of the samurai boy, Zhang Rui smiled helplessly. There was no way. His first level was Pallet Town, so it should count. Come on. You attack first. Zhang Rui planned to let the opponent attack first. He was worried that Baby Dragon's attack was too high and Kairos would be killed instantly. That would hurt the young warrior's heart. You said it. Go, Kairos, use the clamp. Kairos spread his thin wings and flew towards Baby Dragon, aiming the pair of pincers at Baby Dragon, trying to split Baby Dragon in two. Just when the pair of pincers was about to hit, Zhang Rui said to Baby Dragon, use the headbutt. Just as Zhang Rui finished speaking, he saw the corners of the warrior boy's mouth slightly raised. Because Zhang Rui was too late to give the order, when the Baby Dragon used its skills, Kairos's pincers had already clamped its body, and he won the battle, but the Baby Dragon's behavior surprised him. He saw that the Baby Dragon's head actually tilted back, so Kairos's pincers missed. Just when Kairos wanted to continue attacking, the Baby Dragon's head suddenly raised and directly knocked Kairos out, falling from the air to the ground. He lost his ability to fight. Kairos, what kind of damage does this elf have? It actually defeated my Kairos with one move. The warrior boy was also a little shocked. He didn't expect that his Kairos would be so vulnerable. Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Since Kairos lost the battle, the warrior boy could only take Kairos back, clenched the Pokeball containing Metapod in his hand, and fell into deep thought. Your Kairos has lost the ability to fight. Do you still want to fight? Zhang Rui said to the warrior boy. In his memory, the warrior boy still has a Metapod, which should still be on the field. For the Baby Dragon in front of him, he only relied on one move to solve his trump card, so the opponent will definitely be easily solved for the next Pokemon. However, since he chose to become a trainer, he must go down this road. The warrior boy looked at Zhang Rui with a firm face and said, of course, I will definitely win this battle. Looking at the boy who knew nothing about his strength, Zhang Rui pouted, then let's start. The warrior boy threw the Pokeball containing the Metapod. This is my last Pokemon, go, Metapod. The Metapod, which was wrapped in green armor, was released. For the Pokemon in front of him who was only level 9, Zhang Rui chose to quickly resolve the battle. He was very hungry now. Dragon Wave. The Baby Dragon opened its mouth and spit out a phantom composed of energy from its mouth, which quickly flew towards the Metapod. Use Harden. The warrior boy ordered hurriedly. The Metapod was wrapped in silver-white armor, hoping to resist the damage caused by the Dragon Wave, but the warrior boy knew nothing about the damage to the Baby Dragon. He only saw that the shadow formed by the condensation of energy actually passed through the Metapod and flew out with it. The ground was suddenly filled with smoke. Metapod, the warrior boy exclaimed. When the smoke gradually dissipated, the eyes of the Metapod had been replaced by fish plates, and it had obviously lost its combat ability. Come back. Metapod. The warrior boy took the Metapod back. Although he lost the battle, he was not sad because he was obviously clearer about his goal. Your Pokemon is very powerful. I lost this battle. The warrior boy took back the Pokeball of the Metapod and turned to Zhang Rui. Just when he wanted to chat with Zhang Rui for a while, he saw that Zhang Rui had disappeared. He left too fast. I wanted him to stay here first. But forget it. I will work harder in the future and become a stronger trainer. After saying that, the warrior boy turned back to the house. Zhang Rui turned and left when the warrior boy took back the elves. After all, it was already late and he didn't want to waste time here. Not long after leaving, he heard the system prompt, ding dong. Congratulations to the host for completing the level challenge and obtaining the S-level qualification enhancement capsule and 40,000 elf coins. Ding dong. The reward has been sent to the warehouse. Please check it. Fuck. This reward is really useful. This system is too humane. Zhang Rui was very excited when he heard the name of the reward. The main reason was that this reward was too timely. As long as the baby dragon took it, it could not only overcome the innate defects, but also make the baby dragon's qualification stronger. Although it is an S-level qualification, it is already a very excellent qualification. If it evolves in the future, the qualification will continue to improve, and it may even reach the SS-level qualification. When I get a super evolution stone, I guess even a first-level god can fight with it. Now I feel very excited just thinking about it. The main reason is that this system is so humane. Whatever you lack will come. Then, Zhang Rui clicked the button to leave the copy, because it was already late. And he was worried that his father and mother would worry if he went back late. When Zhang Rui returned home, it was already 7 o'clock in the evening. Zhang's mother had just prepared dinner and asked Zhang Rui to go over for dinner. At this time, Zhang Rui received a message from the school. He took out his mobile phone to check and saw the message from the school: inform all students that the Mountain and Sea Spirit Academy will officially start tomorrow. Please gather in the classroom at 7 o'clock tomorrow. The assigned classrooms and dormitories have been sent out via email. Please check it carefully. The holiday is so short. School starts in just a few days. Zhang Rui put his phone on the table and turned to the dining table. If there are a few more months, my baby dragon's level will definitely be higher. After fighting with the warrior boy, the baby dragon's level has reached 21, which has surpassed most trainers. The trainers of the same class must not have broken through the 20th level, and they are not even at level 10. Zhang Rui was excited when he thought that he had surpassed so much compared with his classmates. Endless. Stinky boy, come and eat quickly. Zhang's mother yelled outside the house. Zhang Rui didn't dare to continue fantasizing in the house and hurried to the dining table. Can't let Zhang's mother speak again. If she says another word, he will definitely kneel on the durian like Zhang's father. As soon as he walked to the dining table, Zhang's mother's face had become extremely distorted. Zhang Rui hurriedly smiled to ease the embarrassment. If you don't eat, I will treat you like your father and make you kneel on the durian. I will definitely do it next time. Zhang Rui said hurriedly. Then he released the baby dragon and took out some elf food and experience cubes for it to eat. After eating, the level was raised again, directly to level 23. Of course, he also had to learn a new skill, Qi gathering. It may be useless for others, but for Zhang Rui, this is a very practical skill. Before the battle, use the Qi gathering to increase the probability of a critical hit with a skill, and then use other skills, which is very likely to double the power of the skill. However, Zhang Rui suddenly thought that it was too fast to let baby dragon level up, but looking at the family in front of him, Zhang Rui felt that only by becoming stronger could he protect the safety of his family. Besides, it is not a bad thing for the elves to level up quickly. At that time, he fed the elves with magic candies in the game, and there was no problem in the end, but it would make the elves much weaker than the elves of the same level, so Zhang Rui planned to change the diet of baby dragon, and it would only take a few experience cubes every day. The rest of the time, it was generally fed with physical attack cubes. When the physical attack cubes are fed to a certain extent, the experience cubes can be used for upgrading. By that time, even if the baby dragon encounters an elf of the same level, it can easily deal with it. After dinner, Zhang Rui said good night to Zhang's father and mother, and took baby dragon back to the room to rest. However, as soon as he entered the room, Zhang Rui took out the S-level qualification enhancement capsule given by the system. Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This kind of item that can improve the elves' qualifications, generally the earlier it is used, the better the effect will be. Besides, this is an item tailor-made by the system for baby dragon, which is the intention of the system, and of course it cannot be let down. Then, Zhang Rui handed the capsule in his hand to baby dragon, and it took it. After taking the capsule, baby dragon didn't think much about it, and ate it directly. Baby dragon has absolute trust in the things given to it by its master, and it will not believe that the master will use a capsule to harm him. The moment baby dragon took the capsule, he saw that baby dragon's body was emitting golden light, and it seemed that the capsule began to take effect. As the effect of the capsule took effect, baby dragon's size actually doubled. But think about it, this is normal. What is the difference between elves with good qualifications and elves with poor qualifications? Isn't it all in skills and size? The size of elves with poor qualifications is several times smaller than those with good qualifications. Even if they evolve, there will not be much change. When the golden light gradually faded, the size of the baby dragon stopped growing. Zhang Rui happily opened the data eye, wanting to see how big the baby dragon's changes were this time. Name, baby dragon, attribute, dragon, level, LV23, quality, S, gender, male, status, healthy, features, hard head, carrying props, none, inherited moves, dragon wave, dragon dance, dragon fury, flame fang, tornado, basic skills, rage, sparks, stare, bite, dragon breath, head hammer, gathering chi, teaching skills, none, skills secrets, none. Fuck. Is this the horror of an S-level elf? It actually learned so many inherited skills. Zhang Rui couldn't help but exclaimed after seeing the data of the baby dragon. The inherited skills learned by an elf can actually be said to be linked to qualifications. Those elves with better qualifications will naturally learn a lot of inherited skills, and those with poorer qualifications will have few inherited skills. Inherited skills represent the number of moves of an elf. After all, the skills learned by itself are not many, and most of them still rely on inherited skills. At this time, the baby dragon felt the changes brought by the body and was very excited. He almost jumped up, but Zhang Rui hurriedly stopped him. If he let it jump up, the whole floor would be useless. After all, this time the qualifications have been improved, its weight has also increased a lot. The floor that could not be broken by a random jump originally, it is estimated that this time a random jump may be broken. After being stopped by Zhang Rui, the baby dragon did not complain about it, but yawned, found a small nest built by Zhang Rui for it, and went to sleep. At this time, Zhang Rui also felt a strong sleepiness. It may be that he walked in the forest for too long and his body was very tired. So, after a little preparation, Zhang Rui happily ran to bed and went to sleep. As soon as he closed his eyes, he thought of the scene of communicating with his classmates tomorrow, which made him a little excited. Even though he was also a college graduate, he was still a little excited to go to college to study again. In this way, Zhang Rui didn't know how he fell asleep all night. Anyway, he woke up in the morning, groggy and a little sleepy, but when he looked at the time, it was already 6 o'clock, and he couldn't sleep anymore. At this time, Zhang's father and mother had prepared Zhang Rui's luggage. After the start of this school, Zhang Rui would live in the school. Zhang's father and mother were still a little reluctant, but after thinking carefully, the children were already in college, they were already adults, and they should be independent, so they relaxed, suddenly thinking that after Zhang Rui left, the two of them could live better in their own world, and their mood changed from relaxed to happy. In the end, when Zhang Rui left, they all smiled and said goodbye, and there was not even a trace of sadness on their faces. Zhang Rui took a car and quickly arrived at the academy, the Shanghai Elf Academy, one of the top 10 outstanding academies in China. It has a history of hundreds of years. It is also said that this academy once produced a national champion, but this is only a few hundred years ago. With the passage of time, although the Shanghai Elf Academy is a little down and out, it is still among the top 10 outstanding elf academies, but it is the last one. Zhang Rui has arrived at the entrance of the academy with his luggage. At this time, the academy has been surrounded by people. Looking up, all of them are black hair and suitcases, as well as elves on their shoulders, but most of them are green caterpillars, unicorns, or Bobo. If the baby dragon is summoned, these people may make way for him. No, but Zhang Rui would not do this. He knew the danger of doing so. Although he would be admired by students, he would also be envied by other students, and the quasi-god was special. He might be targeted by some mysterious organizations, which would be troublesome. He could not fight or run away, and it was possible that his baby dragon would be robbed in the end. Soon, Zhang Rui entered the academy one by one. When he entered the academy, it was much more spacious. Most of the people outside were parents who came to send their children, but Zhang Rui's parents were probably showing off their love at home. If Zhang's father did not obey, he would be served with durian or a washboard. At this time, Zhang Rui saw several men, followed by muscular Hao Li or Guai Li, who walked to a beautiful girl and offered to help her carry her bag, but the girl was really cold and turned around and left. This also made the men stamp their feet in anger, and they also glared at the woman who was leaving, feeling very resentful. Zhang Rui could only shake his head and went to find the dormitory with his luggage in his hand. There is a huge fountain in the middle of the academy, where many water elves play. It is also a place where some trainers who like water elves often gather. At the same time, the huge fountain is also the direction sign of the entire academy. In front of the fountain is the teaching building of the academy, and behind the teaching building is a huge playground, and around the playground are some small elves living in the woods and grass. Of course, for young couples who often hang out at night, it is also a good place to play. On the left side of the fountain is the direction of the student dormitory. Of course, the girls' dormitory and the boys' dormitory are separated. If you want boys and girls to live together, forget it. On the right side are some special buildings of the school, including the training room for elves and other professional places. After all, Zhang Rui has been to the academy several times, and he has a thorough understanding of the terrain. It took him less than a while to reach the location of the dormitory. According to the information sent by the academy last night, he easily found his residence. It was on the first floor. His luck was not ordinary. As soon as I walked to the dormitory door, I saw many students looking inside the dormitory, all of them with envy in their eyes. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang Rui was a little confused. Why were they all watching outside his dormitory with envious expressions on their faces? He walked over slowly and opened the door to find out why those people were envious. This dormitory turned out to be a double room. At this time, Zhang Rui heard from the people behind him that only the first floor was a double room, while the second floor was for 3 people, and the rooms above were for 4 people, and the number of rooms increased in sequence. Of course, there was another dormitory in the middle of the dormitory, which was full of single rooms, and there was space for elves to move freely. I just don't know how they could live in such a luxurious dormitory. When everyone saw Zhang Rui walk into the dormitory, they were all envious. Some of them said in surprise, "Is he Zhang Rui, who ranked first in the exam? He is so amazing. Of course, who else can enter such a high-end room except him? If I had known earlier, I would have studied hard, and maybe I could have won the opportunity to enter this dormitory." Hearing the discussions of the people outside the room, Zhang Rui knew why they were so envious. It turned out that the school allocated dormitories mainly based on the ranking of candidates. Since Zhang Rui ranked first, it was naturally the best dormitory, but this is a double room, and there should be another student coming. At this time, Zhang Rui heard someone say, "Isn't it just the first place in grades? What's so great about it? You want to live in this dormitory for a long time just because you rank first. It's impossible. After tomorrow's rookie battle, the dormitories will be reallocated. By then, who knows which floor he will live on? Now it's just for him to experience it. Good grades don't necessarily mean strong strength. When the time comes, I will use my little fire monkey to easily defeat him. Then this dormitory will be my residence." The man with a ferocious face stood outside the door and said, then turned and walked upstairs. After hearing what the man said, the students around him slowly dispersed, no longer showing envy, but sympathy instead. But Zhang Rui didn't care. It was just a rookie battle, and it was possible for Baby Dragon to kill them directly. After putting away all the luggage, I took a general tour. I found that the facilities in this dormitory are quite comprehensive. It is okay to have air conditioning, but it is very strange to have a kitchen. There is even an old-fashioned fruit-making machine. I wonder if it can still be used. Of course, Zhang Rui is most concerned about the freedom of the elves. He found that the house is quite large, and the baby dragon can move freely, so he doesn't have to stay in the space of the elf ball. Although Zhang Rui really wants the baby dragon to play freely in the small world, it will be troublesome if people see it when the small world is opened. After the tour, Zhang Rui closed the door and walked towards the teaching building. as soon as I walked into the classroom, I saw a very familiar person. I saw this person chatting with the girl next to him, making the girl's cheeks blush, and then making the girl's face full of envy. Who else can have this ability except Yi Fei? At this time, Yi Fei also saw Zhang Rui at a glance, and his eyes lit up immediately. He hurriedly pulled the chair next to him back and let Zhang Rui sit. Rui, I didn't expect that we are in the same class. We are destined to be together. After Yi Fei asked Zhang Rui to sit down, he said to him, ignoring the girl next to him and chatting with Zhang Rui directly. Since you are here in the classroom, it means that you have obtained the elf. Let me see what the elf is, and satisfy my curiosity. Zhang Rui hurriedly refused, not now, how about I let you see it in the next rookie match? What elf? It's so mysterious. Yi Fei thought to himself, but sooner or later, I will see his elf, so there is no need to rush. That while chatting with Yi Fei, Zhang Rui found that the girl sitting by the wall in the distance was the girl he saw when he entered the school today. She was actually surrounded by boys, but her expression was still cold, as if she was not interested in anyone. At this moment, Zhang Rui found that her eyes were looking at him, and then she smiled slightly, which made Zhang Rui shudder. Are you interested in that girl? Yi Fei suddenly said at this time. Zhang Rui hurriedly shook his head. I just took a few glances, just curious. I advise you not to approach her, she is a member of the family. Family? Zhang Rui asked puzzledly after hearing Yi Fei's words. You don't know this. I don't know how you learned it. Leng Wanru, the daughter of the head of the Leng family of the 4 major families, has a very noble status. I dare not approach her. Hearing Yi Fei's advice, Zhang Rui frowned. He just remembered it after Yi Fei said that, in his memory, there are indeed 4 major families. These are very old families, and they are all very strange. The members of each family love the unique attribute very much, just like the Leng family, one of the 4 major families, who especially likes to use ice-attributed elves, thus evolving a mature ice-attribute training system. This also makes the ice-attribute elves of the Leng family much stronger than those trained by other trainers. It is even said that their ice-attribute elves can also fight with fire-attribute elves. However, for the ice attribute, Zhang Rui only hopes not to encounter her in battle, because the ice attribute suppresses the dragon attribute. At this time, a sexy beautiful teacher walked in from outside. Although she was wearing the school uniform, she could not hide her graceful figure. This also made the male students in the audience stare at her, and they dared not move at all. Even Yi Fei, who kept talking nonsense, stared at her, but Zhang Rui did not look at her. He had no interest in older women at all. The beautiful teacher looked at the students in the classroom and saw that everyone was already there, so she began to announce, let me introduce myself first. My name is Yan Ling, and I will be your tutor for class 3 of the first year in the future. After Yan Ling introduced herself, all the students present exclaimed. Oh my God! The teacher's surname is Yan. Is she from the Yan family? There are actually 2 people from the 4 major families in our class. This is too shocking. Zhang Rui was not interested in teacher Yan's origins, but turned his head to look out the window. At this time, he found that a vortex like a black hole appeared in the sky far away from here, but it disappeared quickly in the blink of an eye. This made Zhang Rui a little suspicious. If the first appearance of the ultimate cave was a coincidence, then the second appearance might be man-made. Who is opening the ultimate cave? This made Zhang Rui a little curious, thinking that when there is a chance, he will definitely find out. According to the other party's experimental results, it is estimated that the ability to successfully open the ultimate cave has not been successfully opened, but Zhang Rui has left a lot of time. At this moment, the noise in the classroom quickly stopped, and teacher Yan began to give a speech again. Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Listening to teacher Yan's endless speech, Zhang Rui couldn't help but feel a little bored. Isn't that what the teacher's speech at the beginning of the school is about? First, the courses to be studied are divided into 2 sections, theory and combat skills. In addition to classes, students can move freely in the rest of the time. In addition, there are elective courses, such as breeders, etc. Regarding other professions of elves, students can choose to learn, but Zhang Rui is very uninterested. With the existence of the system, there is no need to worry about this happening. Then, Teacher Yen talked about some school rules, and finally began to announce the upcoming newcomer battle. We hold a newcomer competition every year, and I believe all the students here know it. The school does not allow you to enjoy family happiness after entering. Other schools may be like this, but our school is just the opposite. Our school is full of struggles. In this school, everything depends on strength. If you are weak, you can only live at the bottom and will be bullied by those who are superior to you. Similarly, I believe that all students are not satisfied with the dormitories assigned by the school. As soon as Teacher Yen finished speaking, many students nodded vigorously. The dormitory space is so small, and 6 people have to live in it. This is not a place for people to live at all. However, this newcomer elf battle is an opportunity. The top 3 students can be assigned to single dormitories. The top 20 will be double dormitories, while the 20th to 30th will be triple dormitories, and so on. Of course, in addition to dormitories, there are also substantial rewards. For example, the first place winner can get a skills secret book provided by the academy, plus 100,000 elf coins. The second place winner will get a small bottle of platinum level energy cubes provided by a king level breeder, plus 100,000 elf coins. The third place winner will get a small bottle of gold level energy cubes provided by a quasi-king level breeder, plus 50,000 elf coins. After Teacher Yen announced the rewards, Zhang Rui's eyes lit up. The first place winner actually gave away a skills secret book. This academy is so generous that it even gives away such precious items. In addition to the skills learned by themselves, elves can also learn some other skills, and these skills are either taught by relevant elves or learned directly through skills secret books. Seeing Zhang Rui's eyes full of stars, Yi Fei couldn't help but want to persuade him. If he wanted to get the first place among thousands of people in the school, the result was predictable. This was almost impossible. After all, there were a lot of powerful trainers in the academy. It was just a thought to want to get the first place among these people. Students, please prepare well for the newcomer battle. After Teacher Yen announced the rules, she turned and left the classroom. Before leaving, she did not forget to look at Zhang Rui a few times. There was no class in the academy today. The teacher just announced the rules of the game, and then let the students move freely. After all, students who had just entered the school needed to adapt to the environment, and they also needed to prepare for the newcomer Pokémon battle. Is this the student who got the first place in the exam? It doesn't look special. Sister has always been very accurate in judging people, but this time she failed. Teacher Yen murmured and turned back to the office. Teacher Yen's sister was the middle-aged woman who invigilated Zhang Rui before the exam. She had originally determined that Zhang Rui's grades were definitely ranked last. After all, he fell asleep on the table at the beginning of the exam. However, when she was grading the papers, she was shocked. Zhang Rui actually got a perfect score and rushed to the first place. She couldn't believe what she saw. She thought Zhang Rui must have cheated in the exam, but all the students in the exam room failed, and only Zhang Rui passed the exam with a perfect score. Whose copy did such a student copy? Unless he cheated. After returning home, the invigilator specifically told Yen Ling about this matter and asked her to pay more attention to Zhang Rui's dynamics, but no matter how Yen Ling looked at it, she felt that Zhang Rui was just an ordinary boy. That is, he was a little handsome, but no matter how handsome he was, he couldn't eat. Let's wait until after the rookie battle. After all, the college still takes the student's strength as the standard, and excellent students can't survive in this school. After eating in the school cafeteria, Zhang Rui returned to the dormitory. Originally, he thought his roommate would show up, but after entering the dormitory, he saw that the bed next to him was still empty. This also made Zhang Rui a little happy. It seemed that this roommate would not show up. He was originally worried about how to feed the baby dragon, but now he can rest assured. Zhang Rui closed the doors and windows and baby dragon was summoned, and some physical attack cubes were taken out from the warehouse for baby dragon to take. I wronged you in the poke ball. Here are the energy cubes, and I'll give you one more as compensation. Roar. Baby dragon opened his mouth wide, shouted, and took the physical attack cube in Zhang Rui's hand and ate it. After that, Zhang Rui took the full baby dragon back into the Pokeball and decided to go to the Trainer Association. Last time, he only bought tree fruits. This time, he needed to go somewhere to buy some Pokeballs. He was worried that there would be no balls available after entering the dungeon next time. The academy is not like a middle school. Students can leave the academy if they don't have classes. Soon, Zhang Rui spent 10,000 to buy a lot of Pokeballs, so he didn't have to worry about no balls available this time. When Zhang Rui was returning to the dormitory, he saw a lot of students surrounded by the playground in the distance, which made Zhang Rui very curious, so he ran over to watch. Just as he walked to the red runway of the playground and saw the situation on the playground, he knew what these people were looking at. It turned out that someone was fighting a Pokémon. Vulpix on the field was fighting a Sandshrew. When Zhang Rui saw the Vulpix, he couldn't help but exclaimed, "This Vulpix is actually in Alola form." Vulpix has two forms, one is the normal form, the fire-attributed Vulpix, and the other form is the ice-attributed Vulpix, which is the Alola form. However, the Alola form of Vulpix is very rare in this world and is considered a mutant of Vulpix. Such a rare Pokémon actually has someone. Then Zhang Rui looked at the trainer who owned the Vulpix. This person was none other than Langwanru from the four major families. I didn't expect that she was actually fighting against someone else, and the opponent was one of the people who wanted to help Langwanru carry her bag this morning. It is estimated that he wanted to promote his relationship with Langwanru by carrying the bag, but unfortunately the other party directly rejected him. This made him hate Langwanru, so after class, he found Langwanru to fight. Langwanru agreed, of course. The newcomer competition will be held tomorrow, and training before the competition is also a good way to improve. Besides, an excellent trainer will not refuse the challenge of other trainers. Chapter 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang Rui was watching the game from the sidelines, and he could also see how strong the opponent was, to avoid losing the game due to his own negligence during the official game. Miss Ling's 6 tails are really unique, worthy of being my goddess. What is your goddess? That is my goddess. You are worthy of touching my Ruru. What is your Ruru? Look at your appearance, neither human nor ghost. Anyone picked up on the playground is prettier than you. Anyway, no matter what you say, she is my goddess. The ordinary-looking man turned his head and said to the people around him, "Go goddess. I have always supported you. This young lady of the Leng family is really popular. On a playground, at least half of them are supporters. What a terrifying number." After hearing what the audience around him said, Zhang Rui couldn't help but think in his heart. At this time, the battle on the playground finally began. "Will you be my girlfriend if I defeat you?" The man who was fighting with her said, looking full of confidence, and Langwanru seemed to be in his pocket. "Then you have to beat me first. Go. Vulpix, use Frozen Wind." Vulpix on the field jumped up easily, and a large amount of cold air was generated in its small and exquisite mouth. When the cold air was almost condensed, it was quickly spit out from its mouth. Like the north wind in winter, it attacked the Sandshrew. At this time, the man would not directly bear the attack of Vulpix, and immediately ordered the Sandshrew. "Turn your body into a ball, use the rounding to resist the attack of the frozen wind." After hearing the man's words, Zhang Rui couldn't help but want to call him a fool. The rounding of the Sandshrew is used to improve defense, while Vulpix's frozen wind is a special attack, so what is the use of improving physical defense? If the man wins this battle, it will be really strange, as Zhang Rui said. Facing the coming freezing wind, the body of the Sandshrew shrank rapidly and became like a ball. When the freezing wind hit the Sandshrew's body quickly turned blue, and then it was frozen into an ice block. This Vulpix is lucky. He froze his opponent in the first attack. Zhang Rui watched the battle on the field and commented on it in his heart. "Sandshrew, move quickly." No matter how the man shouted, the Sandshrew still did not move. "It's over." Vulpix uses ice particles on the Sandshrew. Vulpix's body began to produce a lot of cold air, which quickly condensed into small ice cubes. After Vulpix opened his mouth and shouted, these ice cubes hit the Sandshrew one by one, because the Sandshrew had been frozen, and the ice particles were a skill with 100% hit rate. All these ice cubes hit the Sandshrew's body. After the sand shrew was attacked, the ice on its body quickly shattered, but together with the sand shrew, it lost its combat ability. You lost this battle. Zhang saw that she had lost the battle with sand shrew, so she used the Pokeball to take back Vulpix. Seeing Zhang Rui in the distance, she still had that cold look, so she turned and left the playground. The man who lost picked up the sandshrew sadly, picked up the Pokeball and took it back, and left with a disappointed heart. Zhang Rui looked at the man's back and shook his head. He didn't cherish the opportunity given to him. Then, Zhang Rui turned and left the playground without staying there, and those admirers of Zhang followed Zhang when she left, and flattered her from time to time, but Zhang still ignored them. For her, these people were annoying flies that would only make people upset. Zhang Rui had returned to the dormitory at this time, and Zhang Rui was still the only one living there. Since she didn't live with him, life was still very easy, and the facilities in the dormitory were quite complete. After eating a little, Zhang Rui took out a lot of tree fruits from the small world and started making energy blocks. Just one kind of energy block can no longer meet Zhang Rui's needs. He now needs to try more tree fruit ratios when he is free, and strive to make energy blocks that exceed the diamond level. The baby dragon was playing on the side. After eating the experience blocks given by Zhang Rui, its level was upgraded again. Now the level has reached level 24, which is still a fast upgrade speed. Calculate again, there are only 6 levels left to complete the evolution. When it evolves into a carapace dragon, its strength will be greatly improved. After all, every evolution of a quasi-god is a leap in strength. Otherwise, is the title of quasi-god in vain? In the next few hours, Zhang Rui became a quasi-god through different combinations of 3 kinds of tree fruits. The energy cube that can increase speed was successfully produced. Zhang Rui also quickly recorded the formula of the speed cube as usual. Now Zhang Rui has mastered 2 energy cube formulas, and all of them are diamond level formulas. If a master breeder knew about this, you can imagine their expressions. Breeders are called masters because they have developed energy cubes that can permanently improve the abilities of elves, while those who have only developed a small amount of elf abilities are king-level breeders. Although it seems that the distance between the two is very close, in fact, the gap is very far. After researching the energy cube, Zhang Rui looked at the time. It was already late. There was still a newcomer battle tomorrow. It was better not to stay up late. He went to bed, closed his eyes and fell asleep. Time soon came to the next day. Zhang Rui followed the school bus to the bird's nest in the center of Shanghai City early in the morning. This is also the venue for the elf battle, which is held in this huge birdcage. As soon as Zhang Rui got off the car, he was stunned by the building in front of him. There was such a huge building in Shanghai City. At this time, the bird's nest was brightly lit with fireworks, and a large number of fireworks gushed out from the middle, which also startled the flying toucans in the air. Soon, Zhang Rui, led by teacher Yan, still lined up to enter the bird's nest. The bird's nest was surrounded by audience seats, one row after another, in an orderly manner. Now there are many spectators sitting there, waiting to watch the game. In addition, there are many reporters who are adjusting the position and function of the camera. It seems that they are preparing for a live broadcast. Located just above the bird's nest are the viewing seats for some important figures, which are also full of people at this time. Principal Qian, which class do you think is more promising for this rookie match? Principal Qian, who was sitting in the viewing seat, was already being interviewed by reporters. Principal Qian touched his pale beard, smiled and said, I don't have any promising classes, because I think the students in these classes are very good trainers, and they can all get a good ranking in this game. The female reporter also nodded with the microphone, and was very satisfied with Principal Qian's answer. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. My dear family, I spent a lot of money to be able to enter here to watch the game. You see, I have spent so much money to let you see the wonderful battle. Please click the little heart in the lower right corner. Thank you for your support. A cute girl, accompanied by a Rotom, was broadcasting live there. This time, Rotom has now been integrated with the mobile phone. Any function in the mobile phone will start automatically as long as the girl says a word. At this moment, a row of rockets appeared on the screen of the mobile phone. The girl's eyes suddenly lit up and thanked the audience in front of the screen. Thank you for the rockets from Tomato. Thank you very much. To repay my dear family, I will work hard to broadcast live today. As long as my family enjoys watching it, it's fine. Obviously, this girl is broadcasting live and constantly evaluating the scene. It is estimated that this behavior has not been once or twice. Zhang Rui naturally did not recognize the woman in the distance, but Yi Fei behind him exclaimed. I know that girl. She is the number 1 girl of Longya, Nasha, who went to the scene of the elf battle to broadcast live. I am so excited. I didn't expect to see the real person here. That at this time, Yi Fei became more and more excited, and almost ran out of the team and ran towards Nasha. Fortunately, he was pulled by Zhang Rui, otherwise he would have done something that was against the law, but it's strange that this guy can tell the identity of a woman whenever he sees her. Under the leadership of Teacher Yan, we finally arrived in the middle of the bird's nest and waited until everyone stood in line, standing in the distance. Principal Qian began a long speech. Those students felt like they were about to fall asleep while listening to Principal Qian's speech. In the first game, the players will be randomly divided into groups according to the order on the screen, and every 10 players will compete in a battlefield. To put it bluntly, it is a big fight between 10 players, and only one player can win and advance to the next round. In the second game, after the first game, 16 players will be selected for a 2-player battle system. One of them will advance smoothly after winning, and the loser will need to fight with the loser together, and the ranking will be allocated accordingly. Of course, after the elves are hurt, they can find a healer on the field for treatment. After Principal Qian finished his speech, he began to explain the rules of the game. After listening to the rules of the game, Zhang Rui in the audience thought to himself, it is probably a big project to select 16 people from thousands of people, but as long as you keep winning, you don't have to worry about the others. But Yi Fei was very panicked. It would be better to kill him with a knife to select 16 people from thousands of people. Just after the last firework ended, the game officially began. The huge screen on the bird's nest selected the first group of players, and then began to shuffle and distribute them. Finally, they were distributed in groups of 10, but what was unexpected was that Zhang Rui's name was in the first group. I don't know if it was lucky or sad. After Yi Fei found Zhang Rui's name, he put his hand on his shoulder and said helplessly, "Ah. Brother, just go over. I will work hard with you." Hearing Yi Fei say this, Zhang Rui seemed to lose the first game. Zhang Rui looked at him with contempt and walked towards Area D. The school was worried that too many people would lead to a slow progress of the game, so they chose to open multiple competition venues to quickly select students to participate in the subsequent hexadecimal competition. As soon as Zhang Rui walked to Area D, he saw a very familiar person, Go Dan. Go Dan seemed to have thought of something when he saw Zhang Rui, and taunted him. Who did I think it was? It turned out to be the waste Zhang Rui. I didn't expect your luck to be so bad that you were assigned to the same group as me. Since you are in the same group as me, it means that your game is over. Go Dan walked in front of Zhang Rui and patted Zhang Rui's face. Zhang Rui was also a little surprised. He didn't expect to meet his enemy in the first game, but he was no longer the Zhang Rui who was bullied before. In this game, Zhang Rui made him know what the fear of being dominated was. Just as he and others were about to walk to the competition venue, Go Dan turned to Zhang Rui and said, "Although I don't know how you got the first place in the exam, it doesn't matter. On the contrary, I heard that you chose a congenitally broken egg from the breeding house. Maybe people like you would choose that useless egg. That kind of egg with incomplete congenital qualifications probably has no combat power. You just wait, you are waiting to be defeated by me in one move." Haha. Godin entered the competition venue with a big laugh, while Zhang Rui held the pokeball containing the Dragonite tightly in his hand, his eyes full of hatred. The Dragonite in the pokeball also heard Godin's voice and was also very angry. If Zhang Rui hadn't held it tightly, it would have wanted to run out and kill the man in front of it. With Zhang Rui finally entering the competition venue, all the contestants were present. Godin held the pokeball in his hand, staring at Zhang Rui with his eyes, and his mouth slightly raised. The referee standing there took a look and announced, "Now the first game begins." Godin took the lead in throwing the pokeball to the ground. The moment it touched the ground, the Pokémon opened its mouth and summoned the Pokémon out. this Pokémon has a purple body with dark purple spots, large ears with cyan inside, small front teeth and small red eyes, and a pair of poisonous horns on its head. Nidolang. Zhang Rui recognized the elf in front of him at a glance and said, "Name, Nidolang. Attribute, Poison, Level, LV10, Quality, C-. Gender, Male, Status, Healthy, Features, Poison Sting, Carrying Items, None, Inherited Moves, Ram, Basic Skills, Stare, Peck, Gather, Double Kick, Teaching Skills, None, Skill Secrets, None." After seeing Nidolang's information, Zhang Rui didn't have any feelings. His aptitude was okay, but it was a pity that his level was too low and his strength was too weak. "How is it? Are you scared when you see my Nidolang? You'd better admit defeat as soon as possible." Faced with Go Dan's ridicule, Zhang Rui didn't care at all. Such a weak Pokémon was his pride. Zhang Rui could only shake his head. The other contestants also summoned Pokémon. Rattata, Unicorn, Thornus, Metapod. After seeing the contestants' Pokémon, Zhang Rui couldn't help shaking his head. That's it. That's it. Only Nidoran could be looked at, and the others, let alone, were not even looked at. After Zhang Rui sighed in his heart, he threw the Pokeball containing Dragonite out, the blue light flashed, and Dragonite appeared in everyone's sight. For a moment, the whole audience was boiling. Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why is your Pokémon so stupid? It has a big head and a small body. It looks like a useless Pokémon. Obviously, Go Dan didn't know Baby Dragon at all, but think about it. He had to pay off the examiner to pass the exam. When he was in middle school, he was either bullying people or on the way to bullying people. He didn't learn the knowledge taught in school at all, but the people around him had already recognized this Pokémon, and they all said tremblingly, "This Pokémon can't be Baby Dragon. This is a quasi-god. This guy actually has a quasi-god. We don't have to play this game. Even if there are 100 of them, they may not be able to beat a quasi-god." At this time, the referee on the side was also a little surprised. It was the first time he saw a quasi-god, and it was still alive, when Nasha, who was broadcasting live, heard the voice of the quasi-god from Area D. He didn't want to broadcast live on the edge of Area A at all, and directly shouted Rotom to go to D. Principal Qian, who was watching the battle, also saw the baby dragon on the field. Although he had a lot of experience, he was inevitably a little surprised. "I didn't expect that a quasi-god would appear in a rookie match. According to my many years of experience, the quasi-god in front of me is definitely not low in qualifications. Hurry up and check who this student is." After hearing Principal Qian's request, the secretary on the side turned around and ran to the school's archives. At this time, the reporter who was interviewing also pointed the camera in the direction of the baby dragon, preparing to conduct a full-scale live broadcast. Not only that, the entire audience also looked in the direction of Zhang Rui. And some people took out the telescope and watched the baby dragon. After seeing the expressions of the crowd, Go Dan began to panic. How is this possible? How can he get a quasi-god as an elf? At first, Go Dan thought that the elf in front of him was the waste elf, but after hearing the name of the quasi-god, his face was full of disbelief. He has been dealing with Zhang Rui for 3 years. How could he get a quasi-god elf? I clearly remember that Zhang Rui got a broken Pokémon egg, which could hatch a quasi-god. However, whether it is a quasi-god or not, Zhang Rui has always been the target of his bullying. Before and now, he said to the others, this quasi-god was hatched from a broken Pokémon egg, and its aptitude is definitely not high. How about we work together to kill it, and then we fight? Although this fighting method damages the reputation of the trainer, in order to win, this is the only way. After hearing what Go Dan said, the others all nodded and commanded the Pokémon to attack Zhang Rui. Unicorn uses Poison Needle. Rattata uses Grab. Magikarp uses Water Jump. Nidolang uses Double Kick. Unicorn spit out tiny needles from its mouth, and Rattata quickly moved and grabbed the baby dragon. Nidolang's legs emitted white light and also attacked the direction of the baby dragon. Only the Magikarp was jumping there, but Zhang Rui's mouth corners slightly raised. The attacks of these elves could not cause any harm to the baby dragon, so he ordered, "Dragon Wave, sweep directly." The baby dragon spit out a dragon-shaped phantom from its mouth, annihilating the flying poison needle in the phantom, and then the dragon-shaped phantom first hit the unicorn beetle in the distance. After the unicorn was hit by a lot of attacks, its whole body was directly knocked out, and then it was the little Rattata. Before the little Rattata ran to the front of the baby dragon, it was directly knocked out by the phantom, not to mention the rest of the elves. They were all knocked out, and the Magikarp successfully avoided the attack because it was bouncing all the time, and the others all fell to the ground and lost their combat ability directly. So strong. Is this the combat power that can be possessed at this stage? That everyone looked at the baby dragon in the distance, and then looked at the elves on the ground who had lost their combat ability, and couldn't help but sigh. This is the power of a quasi-god, which is simply incomparable to ordinary elves like them. This baby dragon is very strong. Ah! It can use such a powerful skill as Dragon Wave in its initial form. That is, as long as you get closer to the baby dragon, I will give you 2 rockets. Nasha saw the message sent by fans in the comment area, and at the same time saw that the number of fans was gradually increasing, but she thought that the school prohibited irrelevant personnel from approaching the competition area. Now she has exceeded the scope stipulated by the school. If it weren't for the baby dragon being too eye-catching, she would have been blasted out long ago, but for the sake of the 2 rockets, Nasha decided to fight this time and fired at Rotom said. Go! Rotom, take a real-time snapshot of the baby dragon, don't miss any details. Rotom, who turned into a mobile phone, received Nasha's order and flew towards the baby dragon, surrounding the baby dragon not far away, taking pictures. Zhang Rui didn't care about the Rotom in front of him, but looked at the Nidolang that had lost its ability to fight. At this time, Godan saw the Nidolang that had lost its ability to fight on the ground, and his veins suddenly bulged, and he kicked Nidolang away. I ate and drank well for you, but you were killed by that incomplete Pokémon in one move. You are a waste. Godan kept stepping on the Nidolang on the ground with his feet, and kept cursing. At this time, Zhang Rui couldn't stand it anymore. This kind of trainer who blames Pokémon after losing the game is completely against the morality that a trainer should have. He thought about stopping Godan's behavior, but he didn't do it. The main reason was that the referee had taken the initiative. He grabbed Godan's wrist with his hand, his face was very scary, and he said to him fiercely. My classmate, how can you treat your Pokémon like this? As a qualified trainer, you must dare to face your failure, instead of venting your anger on your Pokémon here. The referee wanted Godan to calm down. After all, everyone has impulsive times, but the more such times, you must respond calmly. Godan completely ignored what the referee said, swung his arm violently, turned his head and said, I teach my Pokémon a lesson, what qualifications do you have to interfere? After that, he continued to kick Nidoran with his feet, almost venting all his anger in his heart. At this time, Principal Qian, who was watching in the spectator seat, could no longer bear it. He picked up the microphone beside him and said to Godan in the distance, and his language revealed anger. Student, I'm informing you now that you're expelled. You don't even have the basic qualities of a trainer. People like you don't deserve to participate in our school's competitions, let alone study in our school. After hearing what Principal Qian said, Godan stopped his actions. Indeed, he was too impulsive now, but he had no chance to turn back. Now even Principal Qian couldn't stand it anymore, so what was the point of him staying here and being laughed at? Finally, he turned around and looked at Zhang Rui fiercely, and wanted to use the Pokeball to take Nidolang back. Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Unexpectedly, Godan used the Pokeball to take Nidolang back just when the red ray was about to hit. Nidolang, who was enduring severe pain, suddenly became mentally shocked and quickly jumped away from Godan to avoid the light. Seeing Nidolang dodging, Godan was a little angry and kept shooting red rays at Nidolang with the Pokeball, but all of them were dodged by Nidolang. Because of Nidolang's dodging, Godan was completely angry, pointing at Nidolang in the distance and cursing. Damn it! Hurry up and get into the Pokeball, otherwise I will beat you to death when I get back. Don't you want to eat delicious Pokémon food? Faced with Godan's inquiry, Nidalang did not agree to his request, but quickly retreated behind him and hid behind Baby Dragon. Although Nidalang wanted to eat Pokemon food, Go Dan's attitude towards it just now made him angry again after returning home. Nidalang was not stupid and did not want to go back and endure Go Dan's bullying for a little Pokemon food. Go Dan saw Nidalang hiding behind Baby Dragon, and suddenly became even more angry. His face turned red with anger. He threw the Pokeball in his hand at Baby Dragon, which happened to hit Baby Dragon's head and bounced back indirectly. The Pokeball hit Go Dan's body, causing Go Dan to feel a pain in his abdomen. He wanted to run towards the Baby Dragon, but was quickly stopped by Zhang Rui. He glared at Zhang Rui and said angrily, "I'm taking back my Pokemon. Why are you stopping me? Why should I stop you? Look at Nidalang. Is it willing to enter the Pokeball? As a Pokemon trainer, you can't even feel the mood of the Pokemon. You are not a competent trainer." Zhang Rui lectured Go Dan in front of him, looked at Nidalang behind him, and said to Go Dan, "You have lost the qualification of a trainer. Please leave." Damn it. Just as Go Dan clenched his fist and wanted to hit Zhang Rui's face, he stopped, because he knew that Zhang Rui was no longer the cowardly and incompetent person he usually was. Yes, he is now an excellent trainer. At the same time, Go Dan glanced at Principal Qian in the distance, but Principal Qian didn't even look at him and ignored him directly. Then he looked at the audience and other trainers around him. The faces of the audience were filled with disgust, and the trainers who had just fought with him all hid far away, fearing that his fists would hit them. At this moment, Go Dan knew that his career as a trainer was over, and it was completely over. If he had just taken back Nidalang, he might still be able to study in this academy, and there would still be a great chance of becoming a professional trainer in the future. But he scolded and kicked the elves, and his career as a trainer was over. In order to make him a trainer, his family spent almost all their money to let him enter the Mountain and Sea Elf Academy for the exam. In order for him to get the elves, they also bribed his invigilator and even knelt down to let the invigilator pass him. But now, all the efforts of his parents have been in vain, and he has to repay the loan with his parents after returning home. It can be said that his life is over. When Go Dan left, he glanced at Zhang Rui and then at Nidalang in the distance. He left the competition venue with a very disappointed mood. Alas! People always have to pay for their mistakes. Zhang Rui sighed and looked at Nidalang behind him. Now that his master has left, this Nidalang has become an ownerless Pokemon, but Zhang Rui did not want to subdue it. He had a requirement for himself. As long as the Pokemon was not of high quality, he would not subdue it anyway. The referee at this time seemed to see through Zhang Rui's mood. He walked over slowly, bent down, picked up Nidalang, and stroked it. Nidalang seemed to like this kind of caressing very much, and slowly enjoyed it in his arms. "Why don't you be my Pokemon? Although I am just a referee, I can at least give you a good life." The referee bowed his head and said to Nidalang in his arms. Nido. Of course, Nidalang agreed without thinking about anything. It was great that someone liked it. Seeing that Nidalang in his arms agreed to his request, he took out a Pokeball from his body and gently pressed it on its forehead. Nidalang was put into the Pokeball without even a shake. The referee was so happy to be able to capture a Pokemon. Such a Pokemon would usually cost at least 100,000 in the market, but he didn't expect to get it for free. "I must celebrate with my wife when I get home, celebrate this wonderful life," but the matter has been resolved, so the game should continue. The referee also realized this and said, "Now the game continues." After hearing the sound of the game continuing, several contestants were full of doubts. After the battle just now, the only one who could fight on the entire field except Magikarp was a baby dragon. The main thing is, can this Magikarp fight? It can only jump continuously in place, without any fighting power. The trainer who has Magikarp also sighed. Indeed, Magikarp has no fighting ability before evolution. If it can evolve into a majestic Gyarados, maybe it can fight against that baby dragon. But now Magikarp really has no fighting power. The Magikarp trainer had no choice but to admit defeat. That is, Zhang Rui won the game. Therefore, Zhang Rui got the right to advance and can participate in the next game. After a game, the winner can rest in a position aside and wait for the start of the next game. As soon as Zhang Rui sat down, a group of reporters surrounded him and interviewed him. Does this trainer who has a baby dragon have any words of victory for the game just now? How did you get this baby dragon? Can you tell us? Are you as relaxed as in the next game? Faced with the questions of several reporters, Zhang Rui felt a headache and had no idea how to answer. Sure enough, trainers with quasi-god Pokémon are very popular. There was no way. Zhang Rui could only say, for the game just now, I think the opponents were very strong, and I won by a narrow margin. I almost lost. So, for the next game, I will definitely go all out. That's it, thank you. After Zhang Rui finished speaking, he did not continue to answer questions. On the contrary, if the contestants heard his answer just now, they would probably complain. Chapter 20. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing Zhang Rui's words, the interviewing reporter said nothing on the surface, but kept complaining in his heart. You almost lost. Where did you almost lose? It was a little short, that the interviewing reporter was speechless at this time, but Zhang Rui did not make any more comments later. There was no way, the program had to be broadcast, and he turned around to interview other winners. Since this game will be broadcast live in real time, Zhang's father and mother at home can also see Zhang Rui's wonderful game in the game. The two were also very surprised when they saw Zhang Rui win the first game. He is worthy of being the son of our Zhang family. He is very good. Yes. This child is as good as me, and he has perfectly inherited my Zhang Yun's excellent genes. At this time, Zhang's mother heard that Zhang's father was so narcissistic that she wanted him to kneel down with the keyboard and durian in turn, but Zhang Rui had already won the battle, so this kind of thing was fine. At this time, Principal Qian had already taken Zhang Rui's file and fell into deep thought. It is clearly written in the file that Zhang Rui's grades in previous years were not excellent, and even ranked last. But now, Zhang Rui not only got the first place in the school in the exam, but even his Pokémon is a quasi-god, and his qualifications are not low. The most important thing is that this baby dragon was obtained from our school's breeding house. I don't know who is so careless that he dares to put a quasi-god Pokémon egg in the breeding house. Normally, there will be no quasi-god eggs in the breeding house. It is estimated that some trainer picked up a broken egg in the wild. Not knowing what is inside, he thought of handing the Pokémon egg to the breeding house. However, Principal Qian couldn't figure out why a quasi-god egg appeared in the breeding house, and Zhang Rui happened to get it. Is this kid cheating? The game on the field is going on fiercely, and soon the first game has ended. The next round is the second round, which is also a 10-person melee, and only one person can win. Zhang Rui is still playing in Area D, and the opponent's Pokémon this time is also very common. Rattata, Scafo, Sandshrew, Geodude. These are all relatively common Pokémon, but they are also weak. After all, there is no weakest Pokémon, only the weakest trainer. Zhang Rui also won the game easily with Dragonite. After that, several more games were played, and Zhang Rui also won easily, directly past the first level of the game, and successfully entered the hexadecimal game. In this battle, Dragonite's level was successfully upgraded to level 26, and it also learned the skill of Bite. The Bite skill can be said to be a very practical evil skill. It uses hard teeth to bite the opponent, which is more powerful and more damaging than the Bite skill. It may also reduce the opponent's defense. It is a very practical skill. However, it should have been upgraded to another level. Unfortunately, in the next few games, those people surrendered after seeing Zhang Rui's Dragonite, which also resulted in Dragonite not even getting experience, but those people at least fought. How do you know you can't beat it if you don't try? It's true. Zhang Rui just walked out of the field and saw Yi Fei running over with excitement on his face. He put his arm behind Zhang Rui's neck and said excitedly. Rui, I advanced, I entered the 16-digit competition. I'm so excited, I'm so excited. You came here to tell me about this? Zhang Rui was not interested in his advancement. After all, if he met him, he would be his opponent. Seeing that Zhang Rui was not surprised, Yi Fei changed his mind and said, of course not, I heard that someone in this game has a quasi-god elf. This is a quasi-god elf. Which great god can get such a powerful elf? Yes. I want to know too. Zhang Rui did not tell Yi Fei that he had a quasi-god elf. After all, he also entered the 16-digit competition. If he met him, it would be troublesome, so he should hide it, just in case. I guess that trainer with quasi-god status has also entered the hexadecimal competition. I must be careful. Speaking of entering the hexadecimal competition, Rui, have you entered the hexadecimal competition? As Yi Fei was talking, he suddenly thought of something and asked Zhang Rui. Of course, I was lucky enough to successfully enter the hexadecimal competition. Hearing Zhang Rui's answer, Yi Fei patted him on the shoulder and encouraged him, sure. Entering the hexadecimal competition means that you can already live in the 3-person dormitory on the 2nd floor. If you work a little harder, you can live in the double-room dormitory on that 1st floor. Sure. Rui, I didn't expect you to be so good. But this also means that the two of us may have a one-on-one competition. If that's the case, I won't let you down in the competition. After hearing what Yi Fei said, Zhang Rui clenched his fist and said firmly, of course, I won't either. Let's cheer together. Just as Zhang Rui finished speaking, the competition on the field was over, which means that the next one is the hexadecimal competition. At this time, Principal Qian picked up the microphone beside him, stood up from his seat and said to the contestants in the audience. Now the first round of the competition is over. Of course, we have selected 16 contestants with strong strength. Next, please look at the big screen. There are 16 contestants here. As soon as Principal Qian finished speaking, he saw that the big screen had listed the 16 contestants. Zhang Rui quickly found his name on the screen. In addition, he also saw Yi Fei's name. Of course, Leng Wanru also successfully entered the 2nd round of the competition. But think about it, with such a powerful Vulpix, it would be hard not to enter. Next, the 2nd round of competition will begin. Now we will divide into groups. As soon as Principal Qian finished speaking, the big screen began to divide into groups randomly. The contestants were very excited at this time because they didn't know who they would play against. As the cards on the screen slowly stopped, the groups of people also appeared in front of them. Zhang Rui looked at his opponent. Go sure, who is this person? Zhang Rui didn't know this name. Anyway, no matter who it was, he would kill it instantly. When everyone saw their own list, the 2nd round of competition officially began. Since Zhang Rui was in the first game, he didn't have to leave the field, and the others quickly retreated to the outside to watch the game. Yi Fei, who was already standing outside the field, yelled at Zhang Rui, Rui, come on. Beat him up. Zhang Rui also turned his head to look at Yi Fei and nodded in response. I didn't expect that we are really destined to meet. We meet again. Zhang Rui was also shocked when he saw his opponent and exclaimed. It's you.